The Grand Assembly Hall of the Intergalactic Coalition Academy shimmered under a dome of artificial starlight, its vast curved walls etched with the interlocking sigils of 100 species. Thousands of students from across the galaxy sat in tiered rows, their uniforms a riot of colors and textures, sleek metallic weaves for the Catharians, flowing bioluminescent fabrics for the Vidians, simple utilitarian grays for most humans. A low hum of anticipation filled the air as the pairing ceremony began. The companion program was legendary. An algorithm honed over centuries matched students for their final 2 years, forcing cross-species cooperation in simulations, projects, and real space missions. The success rate hovered at an impressive 92%. Most pairings felt inevitable, almost predestined, methodical minds with methodical minds, warriors with tacticians, diplomats with negotiators. Ethan Rivera sat near the middle, hands folded neatly in his lap, his dark hair trimmed short in the standard human military style. At 23, he was a fourth-year engineering specialist with a spotless disciplinary record and grades that placed him consistently in the top decile. He liked systems, predictability, clean lines of code, and clear chains of command. He had spent the last month reviewing public pairing data, calculating probabilities. His ideal match would be a Leon scholar or perhaps a Centurion technician, someone who valued precision and respected protocol. He allowed himself a small private smile when the holographic display above the stage began cycling names. One by one, pairs were announced. Jake, his roommate, stood when his name flashed alongside a tall silver-haired Leon named Keller. They exchanged nods of quiet mutual respect. Maya, Ethan's longtime study partner, rose to join a broad-shouldered Centurion engineer called Torv, both of them grinning as if they had expected nothing less. The hall filled with polite applause and the occasional cheer. Ethan waited, heart steady, certain his turn would bring something similarly balanced. Then the algorithm paused. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. The central holoscreen flickered and bold letters appeared. Ethan Rivera, Princess Zara of the Sarathi Dominion. The name hit like a misfired plasma round. Whispers erupted into open chatter. Zara? The one who had cycled through 4 companions in under a year, each one requesting reassignment after citing irreconcilable operational differences? She was infamous tall, silver blue-skinned, with long pointed ears and an energy field that shimmered faintly when she moved. A warrior princess of the Sarathi, trained in combat since childhood, she treated academy rules as suggestions at best. She had once reprogrammed an entire tactical simulation mid-run to turn defensive drones into an aggressive swarm, claiming it was more efficient. Another time she had rejected a formal courtship proposal from Prince Valoran of Centuria in front of the entire diplomatic corps, laughing that she preferred partners who could keep up without needing a manual. Ethan felt heat rise in his cheeks. This had to be a glitch. He glanced at Jake, who was staring back with wide eyes and a mouthed, "What the hell?" Maya looked equally stunned, her hand covering her mouth. Commander Drix, the stern Catharian instructor overseeing the ceremony, cleared his throat at the podium. "The algorithm has spoken. Mr. Rivera, Princess Zara, please approach the stage for formal acknowledgement." Before Ethan could stand, a blur of motion caught his eye. Zara vaulted over 3 rows of seats in a single fluid leap, landing lightly in the aisle beside him. She was taller than he expected, easily 6.5 feet, her silver blue skin catching the starlight liquid metal. Her uniform was regulation in theory, but modified. Sleeves rolled to the elbows, collar open, a faint scar tracing her left cheek that looked like it had come from a vibroblade. Her eyes, glowing amber, fixed on him with an intensity that made the air feel thinner. "You're the one," she said, voice low and resonant, carrying easily over the sudden hush. "Ethan Rivera. The human who fixed the tertiary processor in Lab 7 last semester when everyone else said it was scrap. You bypassed 3 safety locks and didn't log it. Impressive." Ethan blinked, mouth dry. That was classified maintenance. "How did you?" "I watch," she replied, a sharp smile revealing slightly pointed teeth. "For 3 months. You bend rules without breaking them. You think in curves, not straight lines. That's why I requested you." "Requested?" The word landed like a shockwave. Companions didn't request. The algorithm decided. Yet here she was, claiming ownership of the choice. Ethan felt the eyes of the entire hall on them. Prince Valoran, seated in the front row with his entourage, narrowed his eyes in obvious displeasure. Commander Drix's voice cut through. "Princess Zara, the pairing is final. Report to joint quarters by 1800 hours. Mr. Rivera, you have 32 minutes until your first tactical exercise. Do not be late." Zara tilted her head toward Ethan. "Try to keep up, human." Then she turned and strode out, leaving a wake of stunned silence. Ethan rose slowly, legs unsteady. Jake grabbed his arm as he passed. "Dude, Zara, the wild one? She's a walking court-martial. 4 companions quit because she treats protocol like target practice." "I know," Ethan muttered. "But she requested me. That's not normal." Maya appeared at his other side, voice low. "Be careful. Valoran's still bitter about her turning him down. He's got pull with the administration. This could get ugly." Ethan nodded, mind racing. He had 32 minutes to reach the simulation bay, review the brief, and somehow prepare to work with a partner who had already broken more rules than most students did in a lifetime. He headed for the exit, pulse hammering. The joint quarters assigned to them were on the upper decks, a spacious suite meant to accommodate physiological differences. Ethan arrived first and surveyed the space. One side pristine, the other already claimed. Zara's gear was scattered energy blade sheaths propped against the wall, a disassembled plasma rifle on the table, a small brazier emitting the sharp scent of Cerati Morning Blend, a stimulant notorious for its eye-watering potency. His side remained untouched, bed made with hospital corners, toolkit aligned by size. He had barely set his datapad down when the door hissed open. Zara entered carrying 2 large crates, dropping them with a clang. "Good, you're here. We have 28 minutes. Drink this." She thrust a steaming cup at him. Ethan eyed the dark, swirling liquid. "What is it?" "Cerati, wake up, you'll need it. We're not doing this simulation by the book." He hesitated, then took a sip. Fire raced down his throat, but his senses sharpened instantly, colors brighter, thoughts faster. "Okay, what's the brief?" "Hostile facility infiltration. Standard protocol calls for stealth approach, 6-hour window. We're doing it in under 20 minutes. "That's impossible," Ethan said automatically. "The drones alone are hackable," she finished. "You handle the systems. I handle the bodies. We meet in the middle." Ethan stared at her. She was serious. He pulled up the simulation specs on his pad. Scanning layouts, guard rotations, security layers. His mind, usually so orderly, began to shift curves instead of lines, as she had said. He could overload the power grid in Sector 4, cause a cascading failure that would draw guards away from the central vault. Zara could breach the outer wall while the chaos unfolded. "Fine," he said. "But if we get flagged for excessive damage, then we win faster and fix it later," she grinned. "Trust me, Ethan. Chaos is just structure you haven't mapped yet." They spent the remaining minutes plotting. Ethan sketched override codes on a shared holoboard. Zara demonstrated quick-draw techniques with her energy blade, movements so fluid they seemed to bend light. For the first time, Ethan felt something besides dread, a spark of curiosity, the thrill of bending a system just far enough without snapping it. When the timer hit 0, they headed for the simulation bay together. The doors slid open to reveal a mock alien outpost, red emergency lights pulsing. Zara cracked her knuckles. "Ready?" Ethan took a breath. "Let's break some records." They stepped inside, and the world dissolved into controlled pandemonium. The simulation bay doors sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss, and the overhead lights dimmed to a blood-red emergency glow. Holographic projectors hummed to life. unfolding the alien outpost layer by layer. Jagged obsidian spires rising from cracked volcanic rock. Narrow catwalks suspended over glowing magma channels, automated turrets sweeping slow arcs across shadowed corridors. The objective marker pulsed gold, in the central vault a crystalline data core that had to be extracted before the simulated countdown reached 0. Standard protocol gave Team 6 hours. Zara had promised 20 minutes. Ethan's augmented reality overlay flickered across his vision. Guard patterns, power nodes, drone patrol vectors. His pulse still raced from the Serati stimulant, every detail sharp enough to cut. Beside him, Zara crouched low, energy blade humming faintly in her grip, its edge a ribbon of contained plasma. She glanced at him once, amber eyes gleaming. "You lead the hack. I lead the breach. Signal when you're ready to drop the grid." He nodded, already moving toward the nearest maintenance conduit. The panel was sealed with a biometric lock, standard Coalition tech. Laughably simple for someone who'd spent 4 semesters reverse engineering every security layer the Academy could throw at him. He knelt, pried the cover free with a microtool, and jacked his datapad directly into the wiring harness. Lines of code scrolled across his display. He didn't bother with elegant bypasses. Time was the enemy now. He injected a recursive overload script he'd written months ago for a theoretical White Hat Exercise 1 the instructors had confiscated and marked hazardous. The script would cascade through the outpost's power distribution, forcing every non-critical system into emergency reboot. Lights would flicker. Turrets would stutter. Guards would scramble to reboot stations manually. 15 seconds in, the first alarms blared distant, then closer, echoing off the obsidian walls. Ethan kept his breathing even. Grid drop in 8, 7. Zara didn't wait for 0. She exploded forward like a missile, vaulting over a low barricade and slamming shoulder first into the first patrol drone. The machine crumpled, servos whining as she drove her blade through its core in one clean stroke. Sparks showered. 2 more drones spun toward the noise. She rolled under their fire, came up slashing, and sent both spiraling into the magma channel below. The scent of scorched circuitry mixed with sulfur. Ethan's overlay flashed green. He triggered the cascade. Every light in the facility stuttered and died. Red emergency strips snapped on, bathing the corridors in stuttering crimson. Turrets froze mid-sweep. Automated doors hissed halfway open and jammed. From the command deck above, simulated alien voices barked in panic, perfectly synthesized, perfectly irrelevant. Chaos, Zara had said, was just structure you hadn't mapped yet. He sprinted after her. They moved in tandem now, wordless, instinctive. Zara cleared paths with brutal efficiency, blades flashing, elbows cracking armor plating, knees driving into joints. Ethan followed in her wake, disabling what she left standing. A security camera here, a pressure plate there, a secondary power relay that would have triggered reinforcements. He didn't think about protocol anymore. He thought in probabilities, in seconds shaved off the clock, in the elegant geometry of destruction. They reached the inner ring, a circular gallery lined with force field barriers. The vault door loomed ahead, 20 meters of reinforced alloy stamped with Coalition warning glyphs. 4 heavy combat drones guarded it, each twice Ethan's height, railguns already charging. Zara grinned. "My kind of welcome party." She hurled a pair of microgrenades, concussive, not lethal, Academy approved. The blast staggered the drones, sent them reeling. Before they could recover, she was among them, blade carving arcs of blue-white fire. 1 drone lost an arm. Another toppled as she severed its knee actuator. The third swung a massive fist. She ducked, rolled across its back, and planted a magnetic charge on its neck. The 4th turned toward Ethan. He didn't hesitate. He'd already mapped the drone's weak point during the brief coolant vent on the lower chassis, exposed when it raised its primary weapon. He slid under its legs, jammed his multi-tool into the vent, and twisted. Superheated coolant sprayed in a violent jet. The drone shrieked, systems frying, and collapsed in a heap of smoking metal. Zara finished the last one with a flourish, severing its head in a single overhead strike. She turned to him, breathing hard, silver blue skin glistening with sweat and reflected plasma light. "Not bad, human. You move like you've done this before." "I haven't," he admitted, "but I've simulated it. A lot." She laughed, a short, bright sound that echoed strangely in the ruined gallery. "Simulation is half the fight. The other half is not dying when reality disagrees." They approached the vault together. The door's interface was a nightmare. Triple redundant encryption, biometric scan, rotating cipher wheel. Standard procedure would take 40 minutes to crack, even with a full decryption suite. Zara tapped the alloy with her blade. "We don't have 40 minutes. Ethan studied the panel. We don't need to crack it. We need to convince it we're authorized." He pulled up his datapad again, fingers flying. The cascade we triggered earlier didn't just kill lights. It flushed the local authentication cache. Right now, every system thinks it's in emergency reset mode. Emergency mode accepts override codes from any coalition officer with level 4 clearance. "And you have level 4 clearance?" she asked, eyebrow raised. "Not exactly." He smirked for the first time since the ceremony. "But the Academy Registrar's office does. And I memorized their emergency token last semester when I was auditing their backup protocols." Zara tilted her head, impressed. "You memorized a 64-character hexadecimal string. Just in case. Redundancy is underrated." He input the code. The cipher wheel spun once, twice, then locked. Warning glyphs flashed amber, then green. The vault door groaned and began to retract. Inside, the data core rested on a pedestal of black crystal, pulsing softly with captured starlight. Ethan stepped forward, reached for the extraction handle, and froze. A secondary security measure had triggered. A containment field snapped into place around the core, humming with lethal voltage. The brief hadn't mentioned it. Either the instructors had added a surprise, or Zara's reputation had earned them extra difficulty. Zara cursed in Sirithi sharp guttural syllables. "They really don't want us to win easy." Ethan scanned the field emitter. "It's keyed to biosignature. Sirithi physiology triggers instant lethal discharge. Human physiology gets a 30-second warning. So I can't touch it," she said flatly. "But I can." He met her gaze. "If you cover me." She studied him for a long moment, searching, weighing. Then she nodded once. "Do it." He stepped into the field. Electricity crawled over his skin like static, raising every hair. 30 seconds began counting down in his overlay. He gripped the extraction handle, twisted, felt the core release with a soft click. The moment it left the pedestal, the field collapsed. 22 seconds left on the clock. They ran. The facility was waking up, secondary systems coming back online, turrets rebooting, alarms screaming. Zara led, clearing obstacles with economical violence. Ethan clutched the core to his chest, datapad in one hand, feeding her real-time updates. Left corridor blocked. Take the maintenance shaft, right turn in 10 meters. They burst out of the main gate with 7 seconds remaining. The simulation froze. Red lights snapped off. Overhead illumination returned to soft white. A neutral voice announced, "Exercise complete. Extraction successful. Elapsed time, 19 minutes, 43 seconds. New Academy record for Category 4 infiltration. Score, 98.7%. Penalties applied for excessive structural damage and unauthorized override protocols." The bay doors opened. Applause rolled in from the observation gallery above. Students and instructors lined the railings, some cheering, others staring in open disbelief. Jake whooped loudly enough to echo. Maya looked torn between pride and horror. Zara turned to Ethan, still breathing hard. "You kept up. You didn't die," he replied, matching her tone. She laughed again, louder this time. "We're going to break every record they have, Ethan Rivera. And half the rules along the way." He felt the core's warmth against his chest, the weight of eyes on them both. the strange electric thrill of having survived something impossible. For the first time since the pairing announcement, he didn't feel dread. He felt possibility. They walked out together, side by side, while the Academy watched. Back in their quarters, Ethan set the core replica on the table. Academy policy required returning all simulation assets, and collapsed onto his perfectly made bed. Zara paced, restless energy crackling around her like static. She stopped, looked at him. You could have refused the override, played it safe. Gotten a clean score instead of risking a disciplinary note. I could have, he agreed. But then we wouldn't have won. She studied him again, longer this time. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, he said honestly. Silence stretched between them, comfortable, curious, charged. Zara finally broke it. Tomorrow's joint tactics seminar. They'll expect us to fail spectacularly after today. Let's disappoint them. Ethan smiled, small, tired, genuine. Let's. She crossed to her side of the room, began cleaning her blade with methodical care. Ethan watched her for a moment, then opened his datapad and started reviewing tomorrow's scenario brief. Not the sanitized version. The instructor notes. The hidden variables. The things no one was supposed to see. Curves, not straight lines. He was beginning to understand. The Joint Tactics Seminar was held in Lecture Hall Gamma 9, a cavernous amphitheater with tiered seating that rose steeply toward a domed ceiling studded with holographic star charts. Morning light simulated dawn over a temperate classroom world filtered through the transparent panels, casting long golden beams across the rows of students. Most arrivals were quiet, heads bent over datapads, reviewing the day's scenario, a multi-species fleet engagement simulation involving asymmetric warfare, limited resources, and shifting alliances. It was the kind of exercise designed to expose cracks in teamwork. Today, every eye kept drifting toward the back row where Ethan and Zara sat. They had arrived early, Ethan because he always did. Zara because she had dragged him out of their quarters at 053, with the cheerful announcement that sleep is for people who aren't trying to win. She now lounged with one leg hooked over the armrest, sharpening a small throwing knife with rhythmic scrapes that set nearby students' teeth on edge. Ethan sat beside her, datapad open to 3 separate windows. The official scenario brief, the instructor's encrypted instructor notes, which he definitely wasn't supposed to have, and a live feed of the simulation sandbox he had quietly mirrored from the control room during his pre-dawn jog through the maintenance corridors. You're fidgeting, Zara observed without looking up. I'm calculating, Ethan corrected. The scenario parameters changed at 400. They added a wildcard faction rogue mercenaries who will switch sides for the highest bidder. No one knows yet. Her knife paused mid-stroke. How do you know? I have sources. He tapped the live feed. The sandbox logs every parameter tweak. I wrote a script that pings me when anything shifts after midnight. She gave a low, approving hum. You cheat better than most people fight. It's not cheating if the instructors do it first. A shadow fell across their row. Prince Valoran stood there, flanked by 2 Centurion aides in crisp dress uniforms. His skin was the deep bronze of high-gravity worlds, his eyes pale violet and cold. He wore the Academy's diplomatic track insignia, but the way he carried himself suggested he was more accustomed to giving orders than taking notes. Princess Zara, he said, voice smooth as polished stone. I see the algorithm has saddled you with human company. Zara didn't even glance up from her knife. Valoran, still sulking? I merely observed that some pairings seem designed to test patience rather than competence. His gaze slid to Ethan. Mr. Rivera, I trust you're finding your new assignment educational. Ethan met the prince's eyes evenly. Very. We set a new record yesterday. You should try breaking one sometime. A muscle ticked in Valoran's jaw. The aides shifted, hands hovering near concealed sidearms. A pointless gesture in Academy space, but old habits died hard. Valoran leaned in slightly. Be careful, human. Some alliances are more fragile than they appear, and some partners less loyal than they claim. Zara's knife stopped moving entirely. She looked up then, amber eyes narrowing to slits. If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, take your pretty threats and your pretty guards and find a seat before I decide to test how fast you can draw that ceremonial dagger. The hall had gone quiet enough to hear the soft whine of the ventilation system. Valoran straightened, offered a thin smile, and withdrew without another word. His entourage followed. Whispers erupted the moment he was out of earshot. Ethan exhaled slowly. He's going to make trouble. He's been making trouble since I told him his courtship proposal was the diplomatic equivalent of bad poetry, Zara said, resuming her sharpening. Ignore him. Focus on the sim. Commander Drick strode onto the central platform exactly on the hour. The lights dimmed. The hollow display above him expanded into a three-dimensional star map. 3 coalition fleets converging on a contested nebula rich in rare isotopes, with the rogue mercenary fleet lurking on the fringes. Today's objective, Drix announced in his clipped Catharian accent, is fleet coordination under uncertainty. You will be assigned squadrons. Your task is to secure the central extraction point while managing limited munitions, fluctuating sensor data, and potential betrayal from allied units. Pair performance will be evaluated on strategic efficiency, resource preservation, and adaptability. Begin. The room's seating rearranged itself, seats sliding and locking into squadron clusters. Ethan and Zara found themselves assigned to Red Wing, a mixed-species strike group consisting of 2 human corvettes, 1 Surathi Raider, a Vidian scout, and a single Centurion heavy cruiser. The cruiser's commander icon blinked purple Valoran's personal command sigil. Zara snorted. Of course, Ethan's mind was already racing. He's got the heaviest firepower. If he defects to the mercenaries or simply withholds support, we're outgunned 3-1 in the endgame. Then we don't let the endgame happen, she said. We win before he can betray us. They linked into the tactical net. Virtual bridges materialized around them, holographic command decks that let pairs feel as though they were physically aboard their assigned ships. Ethan took the tactical console of the lead corvette. Zara assumed command of the Surathi Raider. Across the net, Valoran's voice came through smooth and professional. Red Wing, form up on my cruiser. We advance in tight formation. Standard envelopment pattern. Zara muted the main channel. He wants us predictable. Easy targets. Ethan studied the nebula overlay. Swirling plasma storms would scramble sensors in 30 minutes. Perfect cover for an ambush if they could reach it first. I have an idea. Risky. Best kind, she said instantly. He laid it out. Instead of following Valoran's formation, they would peel off early under the guise of a scout sweep, race ahead through a narrow plasma corridor, and plant remote sensor buoys that would feed false data back to the main fleet. The buoys would show Red Wing lagging behind, making Valoran believe he had time to negotiate with the mercenaries or stage a betrayal without immediate consequences. Meanwhile, the real Red Wing would already be in position to strike the extraction point from the flank. It only works if he takes the bait, Ethan finished. Then we make the bait irresistible, Zara grinned. I'll send him a priority distress ping in 10 minutes. Engine trouble. Requesting he hold position to cover our retreat. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You're going to fake a mechanical failure on a Surathi Raider? They'll never believe it. They'll believe I'm arrogant enough to push my ship too hard chasing glory, she said. Which I am. The plan unfolded with surgical precision. 10 minutes in, Zara transmitted the distress call artfully garbled, laced with just enough static to seem genuine. Valoran's response was immediate and predictably smug. Hold position, Red Wing. I will secure the flank. Do not engage without my order. Ethan watched the tactical map as Valoran's cruiser slowed, then diverted 2 escort frigates to screen the supposedly crippled raider. The rest of the coalition fleet pushed forward directly into the plasma storm. Zara laughed softly over their private channel. He just handed us the keys. They accelerated hard, slipping through the corridor while the storm's interference masked their signature. Ethan deployed the buoys in a precise arc. each one broadcasting a looping sensor, ghost of their ships limping along behind. By the time the mercenaries arrived to negotiate with Valoran, the real Red Wing was already inside the extraction zone. The final phase was brutal and beautiful. Zara's raider struck first, dropping out of the storm like a spear, energy lances carving through the mercenary flagship's shields in 3 coordinated volleys. Ethan's corvettes followed, weaving tight attack runs that crippled engines and weapon batteries without wasting shots on armor. The Vidian scout darted in to jam communications. The second corvette laid down suppressive fire. Within 4 minutes, the mercenary fleet was scattering, the extraction point undefended. Valoran's cruiser finally emerged from the storm too late. His sensors cleared just in time to see the objective marker flash green, Red Wing victory. The simulation froze. Applause thundered from the gallery louder than yesterday. Drix's voice cut through. Red Wing, 96.4%. Exceptional initiative. Penalties only for minor falsified telemetry, which, I note, was never explicitly prohibited. Valoran's icon blinked offline without comment. Back in the physical hall, students swarmed them. Jake slapped Ethan on the back hard enough to make him wince. Maya hugged Zara, then immediately backed away when Zara raised an eyebrow. Even some of the instructors looked impressed. Zara turned to Ethan as the crowd thinned. "You keep surprising me. You keep dragging me into impossible situations," he countered. "And you keep following." He hesitated, then said quietly, "Maybe I like the view from the edge." Her expression softened, just for a second, before the sharp grin returned. "Good, because tomorrow's live-fire exercise. No safety protocols, real ships. Real stakes." Ethan felt the familiar mix of dread and exhilaration coil in his chest. "Then we'd better get some rest." "Rest?" She laughed. "We're reviewing the after-action logs tonight. I want to know exactly how Valoran's face looked when he realized he'd been outmaneuvered." Ethan sighed, already resigned. "Fine, but I'm making coffee." The humankind. No more wake-up fire. Deal. They left the hall together, shoulders almost brushing, while behind them Prince Valoran stood alone at the railing, staring at the frozen tactical map, violet eyes burning with something colder than anger. The game had changed. And they were only getting started. The live-fire exercise was not held in the Academy's simulation bays. It took place on the outer orbital range, a vast debris field once used for target practice by Coalition dreadnoughts, now repurposed as the final proving ground for advanced cadets. Real ships, real weapons, real consequences. Safety overrides existed, but they were deliberately minimal. A kill switch on catastrophic structural failure, an emergency recall beacon, and strict rules of engagement that forbade lethal force against other cadets. Everything else was live. Ethan stood on the bridge of the Aurora-class corvette Swift Echo, hands braced against the tactical console. The ship was small, fast, lightly armed, perfect for hit-and-run tactics, terrible if caught in a prolonged firefight. Beside him, Zara occupied the command chair, though she spent more time pacing than sitting. Her silver-blue skin caught the blue-white glow of the main view screen, where the debris field stretched like a shattered asteroid belt under the cold light of a distant gas giant. Their squadron Red Wing again, by some cruel administrative coincidence, included the same mix as the seminar. 2 human corvettes. Zara's Sirathi Raider, now docked with Swift Echo for joint ops, the Vidian Scout, and Valoran's Centurion heavy cruiser Iron Resolve. The objective was simple on paper. Secure a derelict freighter drifting in the field's core, retrieve its black box data recorder, and return to the rally point before the allotted 2-hour window expired. Complications included automated defense drones left over from old war games, unstable gravity wells from the larger fragments, and most dangerously, the other squadrons competing for the same prize. Drix's voice crackled over the fleet comms. Exercise begins in T-minus 60 seconds. Remember, this is live ordnance. Precision matters. Recklessness will be graded accordingly. Good hunting. Zara muted the channel. He says precision. I hear, "Don't embarrass me." Ethan pulled up the sensor overlay. The freighter's deep in the densest part of the field. Valoran's cruiser has better armor and longer-range guns. He'll try to bull rush straight through. Then we don't let him get there first. She tapped the armrest. New plan. We use the Echo as bait. Draw his attention while the Raider slips through the back channels. The Scout jams his targeting. The other Corvette covers our flank. We meet at the freighter, grab the box, and vanish before he can bring his big guns to bear. Ethan hesitated. That leaves Echo exposed. If he commits heavies, then you outfly him, she said simply. You're faster. You know the field's currents better than anyone after last night's sim runs. I trust you to stay alive long enough for me to finish the job. He met her gaze. The amber in her eyes was steady, almost soft. For once there was no grin, no challenge, just certainty. All right, he said. Let's do it. The timer hit 0. Swift Echo accelerated hard, engines flaring blue as it darted into the debris field. Ethan took manual control, weaving between tumbling boulders the size of houses, using microthrusters to hug the shadows of larger fragments. Valoran's cruiser followed almost immediately, predictable, ponderous, its forward batteries already tracking. Red Wing, form on iron resolve, Valoran ordered over open channel. We advance as one. Zara's voice cut in, sharp and mocking. Pass, we're taking the scenic route. She detached the Raider with a clean umbilical release, the sleek Sirethi vessel vanishing into a narrow gap between two spinning asteroids. The Vidian Scout followed a heartbeat later, its jamming suite lighting up the sensors with white noise. Valoran's cruiser opened fire warning shots, plasma bolts streaking past Echo's hull close enough to make the shields flare. Ethan rolled the ship inverted, skimmed along the underside of a kilometer-long wreck, and popped out on the far side. 2 drones materialized from hidden alcoves, railguns spinning up. He didn't wait, launched a spread of micro-missiles that detonated in a dazzling curtain of chaff and shrapnel, blinding their targeting arrays long enough for him to slip away. On the tactical map, Zara's Raider was a green ghost slipping through the field's underbelly. She moved like liquid violence, lancing through gaps no larger than her ship's beam, using short, precise bursts to deflect debris rather than waste energy blasting it. Ethan watched her progress in stolen glances while dodging another volley from Valoran. Status? He asked over their private link. Halfway. You still breathing? Barely. He's getting impatient. Good. Make him angrier. Ethan grinned, despite himself. He angled Echo toward a particularly dense cluster of wreckage, then cut thrust and drifted silent, cold, invisible against the thermal background of twisted metal. Valoran's cruiser slowed, scanning. Seconds ticked by, then the heavy gun swiveled, searching. Zara's voice came through again. Now. Ethan slammed the throttles forward. Echo roared out of cover, streaking straight toward Valoran's flank. He fired a full salvo of disruptor torpedoes, not at the cruiser itself, but at the debris directly in its path. The explosion's chain reacted, hurling a wall of spinning fragments into the cruiser's forward arc. Shields flared brilliant white as chunks of ancient hull slammed home. Valoran's gunnery officer shouted something unintelligible. The cruiser yawed hard to avoid a follow-up collision. In that moment of distraction, Zara's Raider burst into the freighter's docking bay like a thrown spear. Ethan saw the flash of her boarding pods deploying, then the flare of her energy blades, carving through automated sentries. The Vidian Scout hung back, maintaining the jam while the second Corvette laid down covering fire against incoming drones. Ethan kept Valoran occupied, darting in and out, never staying still long enough for a clean lock. The cruiser's secondary batteries tracked him, but every shot was a fraction late, every maneuver a hair too slow. He was running on instinct now, on the hundreds of hours spent in simulators, on the strange new rhythm he'd found working with Zara. Anticipate, adapt, trust. Box secured, Zara reported. Heading out. Copy. Rendezvous at waypoint Delta 7. She emerged from the freighter's bay seconds later, the black box clamped to her hull. The Raider spun on its axis, engines burning white-hot, and shot toward the rally point. Ethan broke off from Valoran with a final taunt salvo, harmless proximity blasts that lit the cruiser's shields like fireworks, and raced to meet her. They linked up in open space just as Valoran's cruiser cleared the debris cloud. The heavy ship's guns tracked them both, but the exercise timer was already flashing. 47 seconds remaining. Too late to intercept. The recall beacon sounded. All ships powered down weapons. The field fell silent except for the low hum of cooling reactors. Drix's voice returned, dry as ever. Exercise concluded. Red Wing secures objective. Elapsed time, 1 hour 53 minutes. Final score, 97.2%. Penalties for unauthorized separation of units and excessive risk to personnel. Bonuses for creative disruption and flawless objective retrieval. Well done. Cheers erupted across the comms, Jake's voice loudest of all. Even the Vidian pilot sent a burst of appreciative color pulses through the visual channel. Zara docked the Raider back to Echo. When the airlock cycled, she stepped through still in combat armor, black box in one hand, energy blades sheathed at her hip. She looked at Ethan, hair disheveled from the high G maneuvers, uniform collar askew, a faint smudge of coolant across one cheek, and smiled. Not the sharp grin. Something quieter, real. "You didn't die," she said. "You didn't leave me behind," he replied. They stood there a moment, the bridge quiet except for the soft beeps of post-action diagnostics. Then she stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the faint ozone and spice scent that always clung to her after combat. "I requested you," she said softly, "not because of your record, not because of the processor fix or the sim scores, because I saw you watch the world like it was a puzzle you could solve if you just looked long enough. And I wanted someone who'd look at me the same way." Ethan swallowed. "I'm looking." She reached out, brushed the coolant smudge from his cheek with her thumb. Her touch was warm, careful. "Then keep looking, Ethan Rivera. We've got 2 more years of this madness ahead." He caught her hand before she could pull away. "I'm not going anywhere." Her eyes searched his, searching for doubt, finding none. Then she leaned in and kissed him, quick, fierce, tasting faintly of adrenaline and starlight. When she pulled back, the sharp grin was back, but softer at the edges. "Come on," she said. "Debrief in 10. Valoran's going to be insufferable. Let's make him choke on it." Ethan laughed free, light, the sound surprising even him. "Lead the way, princess." They walked off the bridge together, shoulder to shoulder, the black box between them like a trophy of everything they'd broken and rebuilt. Behind them, the debris field drifted on, silent and eternal. In the Academy logs that night, a single entry was added to their joint file. Companion pairing: Rivera, Ethan, Zara, Princess of Sirathi. Status: active. Notes: exceptional synergy observed. Recommend continued joint assignment. Risk of rule breaking: high. Risk of failure: negligible. Probability of long-term success: 99%.